Almost every single Dragon Ball game dating all the way back to the Budokai days had one consistent mode that just about everybody loved. A world tournament mode. And no, I'm not talking about who can gather the most points over the course of a few hours. Xenoverse's idea of a tournament. No offense, Xenoverse. But this is really more of an event than what people see as a tournament. When us Dragon Ball fans think of a tournament, we think of this. Brackets, different warriors battling it out to see who can reach the top. An actual finals and a semifinals match. Who's going to be the champion, not who can play the longest on a weekend. So yeah, the ideal tournament mode was not in Xenoverse 2. So this leads me to once again turn towards none other than Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2's future successor in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 3. Welcome to episode 2 of my dream Dragon Ball Xenoverse 3. In case you're new to the series, essentially what I'm doing is breaking down what I think would make the perfect Xenoverse 3 for not only myself, but also the community. Throughout the series, I'll be going over a host of different game mode ideas, functionality updates, and just every little possible change myself and the community can think of to take the proper step forward into Dragon Ball Xenoverse 3. In the previous episode, I talked about a game mode idea known as Capture the Dragon Balls, so after this video, be sure to check that out. It'll be linked on my outro. So with all that said, let's jump right into the World Tournament mode.
Now it's time for the World Martial Arts Competition! This is a full 5-round tournament.
I don't think it's any secret that Dragon Ball gaming fans love the bracket-style World Tournament mode. Not only was it something fun to do even just against the CPUs if you were bored, it was also a tremendous amount of fun when you could play online with your friends. Just getting to the finals and meeting your best friend for a championship bout is an experience that can't really be replicated with Xenoverse's event-style tournament thing. I mean, let's face it, this Xenoverse thing isn't really a tournament, it's just playing ranked over the course of a few hours and seeing who can get the most points. Again, no offense, these events can be kind of cool sometimes, but it's not a true tournament. Not only are us Dragon Ball fans accustomed to seeing true tournaments in Dragon Ball games and the Budokai series and the Tenkaichi series, but also in the actual anime and manga. So I definitely feel like for Dragon Ball Xenoverse 3, there should be a mode where you can organize your own bracket-style tournament. I feel like the concept should be kind of simple, but I'll break it down anyway. So for starters, we could talk about the location. Where would this all take place? Well, easy. Assuming the hub world in Xenoverse 3 has a world tournament area similar to how it did in Xenoverse 1 and 2, this could easily be the location where players can go and host their own tournaments. Because let's face it, this entire area is just an abandoned wasteland unless there's an event going on. With the idea of being able to host your own tournament or join a random one at this location, it gives players a reason to occupy this space every single day, instead of waiting for it to actually be useful, you know, during the events and stuff. So in Xenoverse 3, ideally when you walk up to the ball tournament guy, instead of him saying, "Yeah, this area isn't actually useful 90% of the time," he'll give you the option to either open your own tournament lobby or search for one. Now let's talk about what settings should be available should you host your own tournament. For starters, you need to be able to pick how many participants you want in that tournament, so you can choose the duration of the tournament overall pretty much. Keep in mind, when I say participants, I don't limit this to just players. I'll explain what I mean in a second. So for participants, I think you should be able to have an 8-participant tournament, a 16-participant tournament, or a 32-participant tournament. Now right off the bat, you might be thinking, oh my god, 32 different players in one tournament? There's no way Xenoverse's servers can hold all of that. Possibly, but here's what I meant when I said participants don't necessarily just mean players. Participants could also consist of CPU players. Some people might not like that, but I'm just cutting a little leeway for Xenoverse just in case they have certain limits. Basically, I don't want to ask for too much. If they can get 32 different players into one tournament, I would love that. Have that option, let me get that. However, for example, in Xenoverse 2, they seem to only be able to get about 6 people into one lobby, like for endless battles and stuff. So if they did have the limit of 6 is a, well, fair amount of people, but I would hope they can increase that number to at least 10 so you can fill up an 8-man bracket. But if they can get all the way up to 32, please, the more the merrier. So after you choose your tournament participants, you should then be able to select how many players are going to be actual players in that tournament. And I would just say 1 through whatever their limit actually is. I mean, there might be occasions where you and just one of your friends want to play through a tournament with 32 different CPUs, you should be able to do that. Up next, assuming you open a lobby, you should be able to select private slots. Everybody knows what private slots are. Essentially, it's invitation-only slots. It's already in Xenoverse, people should know what that is. You should be able to toggle with limitations, without limitations. You should be able to select the CPU difficulty, assuming you have CPUs, because in Xenoverse, other than in training mode, you can't select the difficulty for your CPUs, and I've always found that very strange. range. So you should be able to have weak, normal, strong, or very strong. Up next is a feature that I think should have been in normal battles in Xenoverse 2, but that's turning original characters or custom created characters on or off. They'll both be on by default, but I think you should be able to have tournaments with just original characters if you and your friends want to do that, or if you want to have your tournament be that style of tournament, or you should be able to have just custom created characters if that's what you want to go for as well. Also, I think there should be a one character select lock if the host wants that. What I mean by that is once you select whatever variation of whatever character, that's the character that you have to use for the entire tournament, so you're not switching up characters every time. But again, I think this should be an option. You should be able to select your battle time for each battle, and then host match settings, whether they want to battle in the tournament or spectate, similar to how they already have in Endless Battles. Next up, it's unfortunate that I have to talk about this, but I have to mention the idea of rage quitting. Because let's face it, if somebody loses in the first round, it's unlikely that they're going to stick around and watch the entire tournament. Now, this isn't really a big deal if any participant other than the host rage quits, because the tournament will keep going. However, if the host loses in the first round and then they rage quit, the way Xenoverse 2 works is if the host quits, the entire match is disconnected. And it would be a shame if the host happened to lose in, I don't know, the semifinal match and then quit, and it's ruined for everybody who got all the way up to that point. So I feel like my next point is somewhat important. When a tournament begins, I believe all players should connect to a server, a neutral server. What I mean by that is it shouldn't be dependent on just the host being there after the tournament begins. So that way, if the host does happen to quit out, because let's face it, if anybody loses in the first round, it's very unlikely that they want to just stick around, which sucks, but it's understandable. So if there's a neutral server, that means even if the host quits out, well, he's not really the host anymore. He kind of organized the tournament. He's more of the organizer. So if the host server is a neutral server, even when the guy who organized the tournament quits out, the tournament will keep running smoothly. As the tournament is progressing, let's say you finish off your opponent really quick, but all the other matches are still going on. While you're waiting on the bracket screen, just waiting for your next opponent, you should be able to spectate any match that is currently going on. You should be able to just select a battle and then load into some sort of spectator mode of that particular battle, just so the people who have handled their business aren't too bored waiting on their next battle. Also, they'll be able to get a quick glimpse of what their opponent is made of.
Well, what do you get if you win the tournament?
You get what every gamer loves, which is bragging rights, and you get a great experience, something fun to do with your friends. Also, just an idea for Bandai and Dimps, whenever they decide to actually have an event for the tournament again, they could utilize the bracket style. Because not only A, is this a lot more fun, in my opinion, but B, it gets rid of boosters. If you don't know what a booster is, I can't go into all the details here, but I did make a video about it. It'll be linked in the description and on a video card. So Xenoverse could still have the concept of finding out who's the best with whatever character, as they do now for their tournament events every once in a while. But instead of making it a game of who can play the longest for whatever amount of time and get the most points, you could utilize the bracket style and just have a bunch of, for example, I don't know, Gokus in one tournament and see who can reach the top. Whoever gets to the top of whatever tournament X amount of times will get whatever reward for that event. So again, sticking with the idea that maybe they had a Goku tournament, maybe whoever wins 5 Goku tournaments over the course of a weekend, or however long their event is running, will get whatever reward or TP medals were presented for that tournament. This way, Xenoverse can still host these cool little tournaments, this little initiative to get players online and compete with each other, see who's the best with a character or a certain category of characters, but I think it just takes it to the next level. And now, not only will tournaments not be limited to just whenever Dimps or Bandai happens to run a tournament, it'll still be available just for players' leisure whenever they want to run a tournament and just have some fun on their own time. So in conclusion, I think this type of tournament mode, the bracket style, the OG Tenkaichi Budokai style tournament, is a must-have in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 3. I mean, for all the details and reasons I just described, I'm pretty sure everybody's on the same page in believing that this would be a whole lot of fun. Because as I've mentioned before, Dragon Ball Xenoverse's community as a 3D fighter revolves around its PvP. So the more modes and the more fun and variety that we can get with PvP, the more longevity this game will ultimately have. I remember back in the Budokai and Tenkaichi days, having a little tournament was just always something that was a lot of fun. I personally got so much replayability out of just running different tournaments, trying new characters, trying to see who I could win with, playing against very strong CPUs, or just playing tournaments with my brothers in the same room, laughing at them if they lost to a CPU, usually getting to the finals with them. I feel like this could easily be translated into the online variation of Dragon Ball Xenoverse. But anyways, that's gonna do it for episode 2 of my dream Dragon Ball Xenoverse 3. Make sure to give me your thoughts on this idea of the bracket style world tournament mode. It's very possible that I missed some details here and there or wasn't too clear, so be sure to comment any questions or ideas below. If you think this idea is awesome and I hit the nail right on the head, drop a like and give me your feedback as well. Be sure to share this all over the place too, you know, to get the little hype train going. If you've been enjoying this series so far, make sure you subscribe for more and check out the playlist linked in the description so you don't miss a beat of my Dream Xenoverse 3. In the previous episode, I talked about Capture the Dragon Ball, so again, it's going to be linked on my outro screen, so you'll be able to click it and check that out if you haven't yet. But I guess I'll see you guys in the next one. My name is Deion, I'm known as SeeReax on YouTube. Waba!
And with that, I just have 2 more words to say. Just subscribe.